All right, just sitting here. I'm Joe Murray on a Tuesday. I believe this is episode 27 of the podcast. I literally have been just sitting here for 27 days, and I appreciate everybody's support. Of course, you can find the shows everywhere on Spotify, on YouTube, and on iTunes, and getting a lot of good feedback on that one. So appreciate that. We'll have a lot of fun today. We got Big Jim Murray from 98.5 The Sports Hub today. We'll get his thoughts on everything happening. Not so much sports. You can check that out later on today at 2 o'clock. So let's welcome him in. He is Big Jim Murray. He is from 98.5 The Sports Hub. He's a part of the Felger Mavs program. He's got his own show on the weekends with Chris Gasper. What's going on today, Big Jim?
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. Does this sound okay, I guess? Is it echoey or anything like that?
You sound perfect. You don't have the giant microphone with the 98.5 logo, which is fine. You do look like the Repo Man, though, from the old wrestling days. But people are loving the lunchtime comments. So, of course, you can comment during the broadcast if you have any questions whatsoever here. Jim, I've been starting all these podcasts off, and again, we have the parental advisory at the top, so feel free to let loose a little bit. Have some fun with it. But we started off every podcast today with, if you could be quarantined with one person from 98.5 The Sports Hub, like let's say it was 14 days, who would that person be?
Can it be from the building and a former employee?
Sure.
I'm going to go with Mark Feldman. You know Feldman, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, aesthetically, he kind of looks like me. But beyond that, I'm legitimately good friends with him. He hates what I hate. I always enjoy talking to him. He's one of the smartest people I know. So, I would pick Feldman. I think he's extremely talented just in terms of radio stuff, but he's kind of a whack job and has, a lot of theories that I agree with. And I think I could enjoy sitting with him for 2 weeks with nobody else, just, I don't know, getting drunk, drinking bourbon, smoking a little bit of weed. That would be me, not him, because he gets paranoid. But just, I don't know, diving deep into the madness that is the world. So I'll go Mark Feldman.
I love Mark Feldman. He did a little rap for me for one of my bits
Right.
I do, the musings. That came out of nowhere one day. He's like, what's your favorite song? I'm like, today was a good day, Ice Cube. And boom, he just went with it and spent a lot.
He's maybe the most talented production guy I've ever heard. And it's stuff like that. That's right. Cause he did your musings thing and he'll rap on it and stuff. He'll just do shit out of nowhere. And especially when he was with the Sports Hub, I don't know how much he's probably doing a fair amount of that on I want to say jamming.
96.9.
Yeah.
Get Up Crew.
He'd come out of nowhere with these big, long, elaborate production pieces that he had worked on for days. And it's like, did anyone ask you to do that? He's like, no, I just had the itch. So
good call. Yeah. Mine's Dan Lifshatz. And the reason why is because I do my thing. Dan does his thing. We've hung out maybe once outside of radio, but we have that relationship where we just do our own thing, man. That's his side. This is mine. That's his opinion. This is my money. That's his money.
Yeah.
And it's just, it works. And that's why we've done a successful show, I think, because of that. We don't step on each other's toes whatsoever. But
yeah, the separation's important. And it's because I'm sure some people are like, well, why wouldn't you pick Felger or Maz or Jimmy Stewart? And we all get along. But to a point, I think we'd all end up killing each other at some point. So in the 14 days of quarantine. So Feldman, I know, he wouldn't get on my nerves and vice versa. So that's the most important thing.
So, Jim, how are you handling this quarantine right now? I know you're working from home. Obviously, it's going to be going on 3 months soon.
Yeah.
But I mean, the no sports thing, is this bothering you? Or are you actually kind of enjoying the fact that you have to make up content a little bit here and there?
I like it, especially on the weekends because I get to, kind of do a little bit more of my own thing. Overall, I hate it every day. I think it's more bad news. Every hour is worse than the last. I definitely had a borderline nervous breakdown a couple of weeks ago. Had a panic attack for the first time in 14 or 15 years, which sucked. But I know I'm not alone there. I think it's a roller coaster ride. Some days are better than others. Some hours are better than others. Some are really bad. So yeah, do I miss sports? Baseball, I don't. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. If baseball doesn't come back, do I truly give a shit? Not really. But where the Bruins were, I feel ripped off there. Like, it felt like they could have been poised for a deep run. The Celtics were really getting interesting. Now I'm already worried about football, whether or not that's going to be back. It's just seemingly like bad every day. Bad news, bad news, bad news. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't know. I've tried to be better lately about working out and not drinking as much. That definitely contributed to it. Because when it all started, I was diligent about, trying to work out every day, blow off some stress, not really drinking that much. And then, at some point it just catches up with you. It's like, oh, this just blows. So it's like drinking every night, not really working out, sleep until noon. And it definitely caught up with me.
I literally do that. That's kind of what I've been doing is I sleep in, I do this podcast. I probably like record it and post in places, then I go back to bed. And I mean, I think you do fall into some sort of pattern, depression, like whatever. We're all men, like we're all real. This is real life shit we're going through right now. But yeah, for me, like there's nothing else to do. And I'll tell you, like I used to be one of these guys that would stay up till 2 a.m. and watch these West Coast basketball games, like betting on them because I'm bored. And like now I'm watching The Patriot and like Varsity Blues and like, the replacements back to back on CMT channel or whatever. I mean, it's bad at this point. And really, for the most part, I have no reason to leave the house. Like they still send me in on Saturday mornings and on Thursdays. But like, besides that, that's the only time I get out of the house. And like curbside has been my friend. I'm like tipping them like, extra money. Cause I'm like, thank you. Like, it's nice to actually, I'm like a dog. Like you actually see somebody for a while and you just start talking their ear off lately. But yeah, man, it has been crazy. I do agree with you.
I haven't heard you say on any of these, and if you don't mind me asking, did you get furloughed at your other full-time job, or are you working from home?
Out. So out, done. So I don't know what the hell I'm going to do next. This radio thing, and I'll get into your story in a bit, but I've been doing this 12 years, man. Like how I got into this, I'm one of these CSB kids, went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and my second day of classes, my teacher was John Anik.
Yeah, who will be like a big UFC guy.
Exactly. So we're gonna have him on Friday on the show. But like one day, like we did sports updates, and he goes, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I got an internship at 1510 at the time, which was starting to go under because they just lost the Celtics. So they needed all the help they could get, and I was just like, "Yeah, what do you need?" And I was doing everything. And but yeah, I ended up getting hired as a producer. And the one thing that I did was I did sales. And a lot of these other guys, like, you probably did production at some point and then got on air. Like, for me, I was out in the streets knocking on doors being like, hey, do you want to be a part of my broadcast? I'll make you a commercial. And, like, that's how I got started. So, like, yeah, I did production, but then I would do the commercials and then sell it and, like, bill it monthly or quarterly or whatever it was. And
so did you sell your own show? Because I know other guys that have done this, like a guy I worked with in Atlanta, like he paid for his own show initially. It was like, I think $1,000 a month because it was like every Saturday for an hour. And it came to $1,000 a month, but he went out, pounded the pavement, made $1,500 a month. So he paid off the $1,000 nut and then pocketed $500. So did you do that kind of thing, or was that
same thing? Yep. Yeah. So it was brokered time. You bought the time. My first show ever, it was called The Sports Blast, was the Monday after the Patriots lost the undefeated season.
Oh shit.
My first like real show ever. And like, yeah, it was devastating. Like who wants to listen to the radio the day after the Patriots lose a Super Bowl?
Oh, I remember that. I went on like a straight boycott of all things sports radio, ESPN for like 6 months. I was, like most people, I was like, I fucking broke my brain. Like I don't want to hear any more about this.
But it was so sad, man. Yeah, and like that's how I started. And then I just started, hey, I was a local kid. I'm from Hyde Park. I'd knock on doors like, hey man, you want to help me out? And that's how it got started for me. Like, dude, I needed the reps. Like I worked at a financial radio station. I was doing like religious overnight, like board hopping, and like it's how you do it in this business, man. But I guess I should ask you, because I was a fan. I remember listening to WFNX. I remember Big Jim, as a DJ, and like FNX was, say what you want about it. It was a competitor to listening to music in this town. But like, how did you get started in the radio? I know you mentioned at one point you are a failed musician like myself.
Yeah.
I tried. It didn't work out, but I knew how to do everything, and that kind of helped me a bit. But kind of tell everyone your story and how you got in the radio.
Yeah, so I went to like one of these CSB type schools. It was the Art Institute of Boston, which got folded into, it was Mass Communications College. It got folded into the Art Institute of Boston. It used to be right by Mistral and Club Cafe in the South End. And I went there because I was a shitty guitar player, but I loved music. I've had these aspirations of wanting to be a musician, but anyone that I played with, I was always the weak link. So I at least had the self-awareness to be like, well, I suck at this, but how can I try to parlay this into some sort of music career? So I went to that school. I had gone to Middlesex Community College. I was a shitty high school student. I didn't really want to do real school. So I transferred what I had in terms of, applicable credits and whatnot to Mass Communications College. And I went there initially for music recording. So I was like, well, if I can't play in a band, maybe I can record bands. And one of my instructors, who was day one, he said to the class, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give it to you. And he had all these credits. He had worked with Philip Glass. He had credits as assistant engineer on Bowie records from the 70s. So he wasn't just some hack. But how did he end up teaching here? Well, he said, he's here's what's going to happen. He's you're going to end up probably hating this job. You're going to develop a drug problem. You're probably going to go through 2 or 3 marriages. We were all looking at each other what the fuck? But I knew real quick, within the first couple of weeks, I'm I made a massive mistake, because my parents at that point were you're paying for this. So, we're not paying for this bullshit dream of yours. Figure it the fuck out. And rightfully so, because I was a bad student. But I realized quick, I was oh, I hate this. I didn't like the engineering aspect of it. It was just again, I can't be a musician, so I'll try to be near them. But I hated it. And it just was this is a waste of money and a waste of my time. And a girl I was friends with at the time then said, well, if she was in the radio program, she's well, you're kind of funny and you got a good voice. Why don't you just transfer over to radio? And so I did. And that's what happened. And I immediately loved it. And, I grew up listening to BCN and FNX, and I never really thought there's people that, a guy what's his name? You know him, and I think you would worked with him at one point. He does Callahan's podcast now.
Alex Reamer, yeah.
There's guys like that.
I hired him years ago.
They've known since they were 5 or 6 years old. They want to be
literally. Yeah.
I was never that guy. I just listened to it, but then I transferred over. But I did like it, and I liked doing the mock shows. And one of my instructors was Henry Santoro, who was the news guy at FNX at the time. He's now at WGBH. But I really liked him, and he kind of lit a fire under my ass, and he's you could do this. And it was that. I was oh, I could do this. And so I liked it, and I stuck with it, and I got an internship at FNX in '97. Once I got my foot in the door, I was over my dead body, am I getting on it? My internship will end, and I'm making sure they can't get rid of me. So, no one's good at the beginning. So what I did to make sure people knew me is, at the time I was working at Barnes & Noble on Route 1 in Saugus in the cafe.
Oh yeah.
And dude, you remember how it was.
Oh, yeah.
There's no security cameras. There's no you could steal, and you worked a retail job in the 90s. It's a fucking free for all. And I would never steal from. No, this is my justification for it. I'd never steal from a mom and pop, but from those big conglomerates. Get fucked.
Sure.
You're insured for it. So I found out all the important people, the program director, the APD, people I appreciated on the air and liked, what they liked, and I stole them the appropriate stuff. Books. Henry was into tea. All that shit. The PD was into X-Files books. I just. All the time, people how do you get this? I'm oh, I got a big discount. So, and with that, I was able to kind of worm my way in. I started as the first paycheck I got was a production assistant, just dubbing commercials, because at the time it was still reel to reel and cassette and carts and stuff like that. And I kind of worked my way up from there. The other, I worked at you mentioned a Christian station. I worked at WROL 950 AM.
Oh, I was in that same building.
No shit, really?
Marina Bay?
Well, no, so they had the other one where all the production stuff was there. And then the small station that was on Route 1A.
Okay.
And in Saugus, where all the people you would get race cars and get
yeah.
all the time. So that along with the occasional few hours I would get production wise were the first real radio jobs I had.
So FNX, were you there when it went under? or did you already move on from that point?
I was out. I got blown out in the spring of 2010.
You have 12, 13 years there then.
Off and on, yeah. I think I signed the paperwork there to be full time like 4 different times. So I eventually got full time in 2000 as a production assistant and like, you know, the sport. So they never had like a sports thing. So, you know, like Butt Rock starts to come in, Limp Bizkit, Korn, all that kind of stuff, which I liked at the time. Most people do. People want to have revisionist history about it and say like, oh, we didn't like that then. You did.
Yep. Dude, I had like a 7-string guitar.
Oh, no.
Like Fieldy, you know what I did?
With like what was it? Not even drop D.
It was drop like whatever. Hey. Yeah. You know.
So yeah, they didn't have a sports guy in the morning show, and they bring in this like rockish morning show. So I got hired to do that too, and I ended up having that role on like 5 permutations of morning shows from 2000 to 2003. I left. I got that job with them. I got to work at G4, the now defunct video game network, to be a host on their Madden thing for 2003. Came back in 2004, did some overnights. Like I signed the paperwork there like 4 separate times. I loved it there. You know, it was never it was never a monster like WBCN, but they broke Nirvana. They were the first station in the country to play them, and that was before me. But no, I wasn't there when they went under. I think that was 2012, so I was already out.
Shit. And I know you bounced around, and that's one thing people don't get about radio. You know, you are talented. Like, you know, you do production work. You're a funny dude. You got a good voice. You can read commercials. You can do all that shit. But like, I don't know, if nobody wants to hire you full time, you get down on yourself. You know, you're like, shit, am I good? Is this good? Am I good enough for this? You know, I'll never get full time. Like, I love the Sports Hub, and I'm happy with my role there. But everybody's under contract. It's the number 1 station. Like, someone's gonna have to die or leave in order for me to get that job. And like, I'm fine with that, but it sucks. So I'm sure you've been doing this for years, and you went to Atlanta. You left the Sports Hub. You were there for a bit. Went to Atlanta because you wanted to work on your craft and get better, and somehow you made your way back. But was there a point where you're like, dude, I might not be able to do this anymore?
Oh yeah. So it's around that time. So I get blown out the end of 2000. It's spring of 2010, and that was ugly. They bring in this new guy who's the worst guy I've ever worked for in radio. Just like a petty fucking asshole.
Like pig vomit, like that.
Yeah, bad dude. So here's the best example of what a piece of shit this guy was. They blew out the morning show, who was like all my best friends, who I'm still friends with now. And I get taken off afternoons. They put on Adam 12, which fine. Like, he was a name and still is, and was at BCN. So like, I got it, but I'm not going to be happy about it. So rather than like doing it in a mature way, like we're going in a different direction, all of us that were still there, dude, he sat us in a meeting, and he was just such a manipulative fucking oh, I hated him so much. He printed out a child's like sections of a children's book. What the fuck was it called? It was something with like something in the steam shovel, but a children's book. And really the section of it was like, why your job is going away. And he made us read it aloud page by page. Like, one person had to read a page, next person had to read a page. And dude, as it was getting to me, I was in my head. It's one of the big regrets I have in life. I'm like, I'm going to fucking lose my mind. And I'm going to tell this guy, rip this guy a new fucking asshole, like up and down. But I didn't, because I was a pussy and I needed the money and I wanted to collect unemployment. But I knew my time was running out. So I read my page. But I like the regret I still have 10 years later for that I didn't just blow up and fucking burn the room down. It still burns inside of me. But yeah, I mean, everyone eventually, I think, works for someone that bad in this. Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel. There it is. That's the fucking book, Ryan. That's the book. Yep. Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel. He had this voice, Mike Tierney. We all have to dig a little bit deeper. Oh, I'd still choke him in his sleep today. I fucking hate him. So that all ended badly. And at that point, I'm like, I'm done. Like, do I go back to school? But here's the thing, and I've fucked myself. I really only have myself to blame. Like, I don't know anything else. I'm not good at anything else. I don't want to do anything else. Like, you know how it is. Like, once this fucking business gets its fangs in you, and it really gets in you, like, that's all you want to do. So, I don't know. Like, that time passed, and then I forget who put me in touch with Mike Thomas. I sent an email, October of 2010. I was like, oh, here goes nothing. And I heard back from him, and I was like, oh shit. And he's like, well, I can hire you for either some production stuff and doing updates, like done. So that, and then that led to me getting some part-time hours at WBZ AM, which was awesome because at the time they're unionized and paid like $34 an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, dude, there was days I went in there with the full-on flu, like, ready to die. I never said, and I've heard you say this on this podcast, like the big thing more than anything else, even more than talent, you say yes to everything. Outside of like having to blow a PD, like you say yes to everything. Absolute fucking yes to everything. So I just kept showing up. But I had that same mentality. When I got into sports, I was like, well, I'm never going to get full-time here. Someone has to die or get fired. And then 2012, they were flipping that station from a rock station to sports in Atlanta. And I, for whatever reason, and I know Andy Gresh, is prickly to a lot of people. He liked me. He knew the PD down there. He touched base with him. And he's like, well, I got a guy for you. And the funny thing was I initially got hired as like a Wallach role down there, like full-time updates. That's it on mornings. And then, that guy ended up being the second worst PD I've ever worked for. Like he was just a weird manipulative fucking guy. You didn't know which way he was coming. Like right 2 weeks before I had already accepted the job and all that stuff. But 2 weeks before I moved everything and went down there, he's like, oh, by the way, your job's changed. You're doing late nights. And I was like, late night updates? He's like, no, you're the host. So while I was pumped, I was also terrified.
Yeah.
All I had really done in terms of hosting at the Sports Hub was I was with Mike Lockhart for a little bit doing the fantasy football show, and that was really it. So I'm also a big believer, though, it was the best thing that could have happened for me because I think you're going to get thrown right into the fire. Like it's either sink or swim. So I did that 10 p.m., 2 a.m., for about a year and a half down there, and then things miraculously changed. Eventually at the Sports Hub, I had to stop at a top 40 station in Connecticut for a little while. But I never would have thought like Gresh would have been out and Beadle moved over and like how that whole thing came up. Like it's still mind blowing to me that whole thing ended up happening the way that it did.
Availability is the best ability. That's what I'll tell anybody. Like, you needed your reps on the air, you got it and you figured it out. And, the one thing I like about night is shit happens fast and you have to give a reaction quickly. You know what I mean? And if you have that reaction and you can do that, you're going to be just fine. You know what I mean? And so we'll move on from the Big Jim stuff, but I do have a question. Felger and Maz, they liked you. You filled in a ton with them, and I know when the whole switch happened, there was talks about maybe other people going to that role and moving, and it probably made a shift elsewhere in the station as well. But did you think you could fit in with those two guys? Was there ever an issue where, like, all right, or just in general, has there ever been an issue where you're like, oh shit, am I going to be able to fit in with a Felger and a Maz?
Yeah, well, so it's funny. It's easier to think that you can when I was part-time, and I still, even when I was in Connecticut, I would still send them like production stuff to use either for the final word or to come back as a rejoin, just because I was like a fan of the show. And I also, was also trying to look out for my own interest too. Like, hey, if anything ever changes, like keep me in mind. Because I had heard things, but you never fucking know. But I'll tell you, like when I first got there full time, so that's February 2015, and they're knuckle deep in Deflategate every day, 4 hours a day.
It's 5 years ago now, man.
Yeah, 2 months in, I remember we all collectively had a meeting with Mike Thomas, and it wasn't said, but it was implied, like, are you comfortable? And like, are you comfortable? And to them, like, are you comfortable with him? Because at some point, because I would listen, but you're not sitting there 4 hours a day. And I know, like a month in, I was like, we're really going to do this fucking 4 hours a day, every single day, 5 days a week. Like, what the fuck? Like, can we talk about something else?
Yeah.
So, there was a weird little adjustment there for a little bit there was definitely a period, I think early, that it was like, is this working? So I'm a big believer no matter what the format though, like, and you got to give things time. Like a new host, a new show, you should get a year. I think I'm a firm believer in that. Like, people are going to probably hate you. No one's going to come right out of the gate and think you're good and love you. It's especially if you're replacing someone that people have grown used to, and you got to give things time. And thankfully they did. And I think it's worked out. So
yeah, it's a number one show going in Boston right now. So, and not for nothing, that show needs a little bit of lightness in the show. I know you might bring some darkness to the show, but like we need to lighten up a little bit there.
Oh, for sure.
And I know Felger can do that. Like, listen, Tony's the nicest guy in the world, and he's got his this sucks, that sucks, and Felger's got his end of the world and all that shit. But like, really, they're really good guys, and people don't get
right.
that. But like the show does need a little laughter in it. And I think, and the schedule day is like, that's one of my funniest bits.
Oh, thanks.
You can just bring that thing back
Yeah.
every single year, even with the Boston accent. Big Jim Murray series from 98.5 The Sports, and we'll just kind of go through a few chats in here. Murray and Murray together, the prophecy has come true. I want to ask you about that in a minute. Yes, the Sports Splash was great and had a softball team. Bird checking in, what an effing egomaniac from way back in the day. Wish you guys can curse on 98.5.
Yeah,
blah,
me
blah,
too.
and whatever. Big Jim, how many onions did you drop in the ceiling in Atlanta?
Yeah, so I was so frustrated towards the end of the FNX. That happened in FNX, not Atlanta. Like I was just such a dude. I would like spit on shit. It was so bad. I was like the worst employee. And there was sandwich I ordered for lunch that had onions all over it. Throwing them in the drop ceiling, and Adam 12 caught me. I turned around, like, "Oh, hello."
Did you ever know that Doc Rivers did that? Like,
really?
He put money in the ceiling in L.A., I guess, and said we're gonna come back here. And I guess when they won it, they ended up taking the money out and had all the money. But I've heard that like they used to leave cheese, like some places would leave cheese when they did that. And then Big Jim, do you ever get sick of non-sports breaking news in the afternoon? Blah. You just kind of go. Rock 101. Were you ever there?
I was there too. Yeah. See, I've had a million fucking jobs. So I was there. So again, like, because I had these off and on with FNX for a better part of a decade. I was at Rock 101 December of 2004 to almost the beginning of 2006. I did afternoons there. Yeah, it's and so
like, you don't even remember, dude, because you've been like in so many places. You're like, holy shit, yep, yeah, I did afternoons there.
Yeah, and that was truly like this is coming up next. They didn't really get to do it. Like I didn't get to do much. It was Clear Channel, which is now iHeart, rebranded, same shitty company. Yeah, that's not one of my better radio jobs. And they hated me. Like the PD was mad because. And you know, I'm to blame here too. But so it's Manchester, but I wanted to talk about like bigger picture stuff, and I didn't live there, and they were mad I didn't live there, and like a lot of me getting ripped by my PD was like, "Oh, you don't talk about the Manchester Metro enough." And it's like, oh, who gives a shit about Manchester? Like, come on.
All right, so I got to ask you a question. I met you at the Sports Hub one day in the hallway. This other guy named Joe Murray's coming in. There's Jim Murray.
Yeah.
Well, I went by Joey Murr for years.
Right.
Because I had to separate. Dude, there was like 5 Joe Murrays in my neighborhood in Hyde Park. So, and I was like, I'm going to be Joey Murr. Like it's a radio name, whatever, fuck it. But there was already like a Danielle Murr. And then there's a Jim Murray. And I'm like, fuck. And then it's like Joe Murray, Jim Murray. So for a while, people would send me shit about you.
Yeah.
So I'm sure people were sending you shit about me. But like at some point, you're like, who the fuck is this Joe Murray guy coming in here?
Well, no, I knew who you were, but and it still happens. I think one of the nights you were on with our camp last week, someone tweeted at me and was like, "Don't be so down, man." And I was like, "Huh?" Like what? Because it's still, and I'm sure it still happens. I'm like, "What are you talking?" And I was like, "Oh, right, Joe's on right now." Like,
but like it's like it probably bothered you at some point. Like you've been an established guy in this business. Don't get me wrong, I've been doing this 12 years, but like I was at I finally made it to the Sports Hub 8 years ago. But like at some point, you're like, who the fuck is this guy?
No, it didn't bother me. It's just confusing at times when people tweet at you, and I'm like, did I say that? Because the gambling, if anyone tweets me any gambling stuff, like I automatically know, like, okay, like, you know, and you'll see, like, I'll be like, no, at Joe Murray, like that's who you want to talk to. But every once in a while, it'll be something I'm like, what? Huh? Oh, right, like Joe must be.
Oh, that happens to be like, I'm like, I never said that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I swear I never said that. And then I'm like, well, I don't think Jim would said that either. Like, you know, so now I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you're listening to anymore. But I just a question, because it's definitely come up many times in my life. So let's move on from the radio stuff. Well, maybe we'll do a little sports talk, but I don't really care. So my favorite band, I probably told you this, is Alice in Chains.
Mm-hmm.
They're like my favorite band of all time. And when I was like first wanted to get into radio, I got an acoustic guitar and I bought Nirvana Unplugged and I started playing, and I'm like, okay, great. And I loved Alice in Chains, and I'm like, oh, do I want to attempt that? And then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, Jerry Cantrell's way fucking better than Kurt Cobain. Like way better, just from like learning how to play it. Come to find out, you're at the fucking Unplugged show.
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen?
So, before I worked at FNX, I listened all the time. And so the spring of 96, them, AAF, BCN were all doing, like a giveaway contest to go to this thing. And that, especially, they're still one of my favorite bands of all time. But at that point in that period of my life, where I'm 19, whatever the fuck I am, 20, they're my favorite band, hands down. Obsessed. So I tell one of my friends, Jason Kinnickle, who I'm no longer friends with, but I tell him, I'm like, I'm like, we're winning this fucking contest. We're going to this fucking show no matter what. We're winning it. So every day we were like monitoring those stations, listening. And FNX had the easiest one, where it was like, they're going to play a series of Alice in Chains songs starting at 8 a.m. It's one of these contesting things where they try to get you to listen all day. And then in the afternoon, they're going to play the final song. You have to name the songs that they played. Alice in Chains songs play in order. We're monitoring all day. We're writing them down. At the time, I was a pizza delivery guy at this place, Paisan's Pizza in Melrose. And I was also telling some of my other friends, like, hey, try to help me out here. One of my other friends worked at this pizza place with me. He hears the song play as I'm coming back from a delivery. He stops what he's doing, making a pizza, calls, gets through. This is the important part, because he calls, gets through, hands me the phone to Julie Kramer, who was then doing afternoons. I list off all the fucking songs. I win the fucking thing. Blows my mind. I even said, I swore on the air. She's like, because I like got it right. I knew I got it right. And she's like, it's Julie, because I'm friends with. And she was like, dude, she's like, you don't sound that excited. And I go, I'm fucking psyched. Like, and she played it. And then afterwards, she's like, I can't believe you swore on the air. Like, what are you doing? So they take my information. I win the whole thing. Again, my friend Eric gets through. Eric now assumes he's going.
Oh, no.
I told my friend Jason, again, like, you win, you take me. I win, I take you. And it broke the friendship of my friend Eric, because I was like, listen, man, like, I'm a man of my word. Like, I told Jay I could take him. And he's like, but I got through. I'm like, but I never told you I would take you.
Oh,
it became this whole other thing that, like, fucked up my life at the time, even though it was such a great thing that I won. It, like, ruined this friendship. It was a whole shit show.
And now you look back on it, it's so stupid, but go ahead.
But yeah, it was wild, dude. Like, I got to now go see this band that hadn't played in 3 years. The rumors, especially at that time, is like, is Lane going to live or die?
Was he going to show up?
Yeah, I'd never been on a plane. Like, it was this whole show was like, this is fucking nuts. They put us up in like this ridiculous ritzy hotel. It was fucking wild. And I've told this story a million times, but so we get there. It's at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and they sit us down, and people keep coming up to these dudes behind us. We're like, what the fuck? Like, these well-coiffed, like, fucking leather jacket dudes. And then my friend Jay goes, dude, that's Metallica. And I was like, what? Because again, at that point, like, Load hadn't come out. No one had seen Metallica in years, but they had cut all their fucking hair off. So they looked completely different.
Yep.
They were behind us before they moved them to the front row, because we were about like 5-6 rows back. And it was like, oh my God. But we never bothered them. I wish we did, or like got a photo or something like that. But yeah, Metallica was like literally behind us as the group with all their short hair, their short haircuts. And that's why, I don't know if you know the story.
Like Mike Inez, yeah.
Friends
let friends get friends haircuts.
Friends haircuts.
Yeah.
Which was there busting the balls.
They even played a little, and now we're gonna go to an LL Cool J song. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. They play Battery at one interlude.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought this up. So with all this time on our hands, you're saying you're watching all this wacky shit late at night. Same here. I ended up in a YouTube vortex the other day, like a week ago. Going down like all this 90s stuff, like watching whole videos, because I love Courtney Love and all that music from that era. And I've been searching around. No one makes, I don't know if you found this, like no one has a good documentary about Alice in Chains. One doesn't exist.
No, there's a book Unchained, but no documentaries.
And there's a few that people have thrown together. And there was one on Lane Staley that I was actually pretty decent. It was like 30 minutes long. And after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch the Unplugged, because I haven't watched this in like 15 years, and there was a reason for it. And I felt that the night that I was there, I swear on my mother, then you're going to hate this. It's not that good, dude.
The CD is not as good as when you were there, or
the whole thing's not that good. I had this epiphany watching this like a week ago, that some things in your life, because of the enormity of the experience, like an Alice in Chains Unplugged is one. The Rams Patriots Super Bowl, this last one, is another. Like, because of what it was, you build it up in your mind. You're like, I was at this, and especially the Alice in Chains Unplugged, which is this big seminal moment in rock, especially for those grunge bands. But I remember, dude, I swear on my mother, that night being there when they open with Nutshell and he starts singing, I was like, oh, Oh, he doesn't sound good. And I'll tell you. So, have you ever watched the Mad Season DVD?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
If you listen to Lane Staley, where he's healthy and
singing "Lifeless Dead" and going nuts.
He's one of the greatest voices in rock history.
Yep.
He sounds amazing. He don't sound good in the Alice in Chains Unplugged. He gets stronger as it goes along. He does, but those first few songs, and there's a few that he butchered. Yeah. I remember sitting there that night, and all these years, and the reason why I haven't listened to it and rewatched it that much is because ultimately, I don't think it's that great. It's not that great, comparatively speaking. I know they hadn't played in 3 years. It's this monumental achievement that they even get his fucking half corpse out there to sing. But considering how well he sounds when he was healthy, it ain't that great.
So I agree. So there's a couple of things there. That's why I wanted to ask you about this show. So I've watched the Unplugged a million times, but I think it makes Jerry Cantrell look outstanding. He's the driving force of the band, singing. He sang probably a lot more than Lane did.
Yeah.
And obviously the harmonies. So that was one thing. And
especially then Down in the Hole, he mostly carries that whole fucking song.
Yep. And the Rooster stuff, I thought it was pretty good there. Yeah, Down in the Hole, I agree with you on Jerry. But yeah, they're trying to sing Sludge Factory and he doesn't even know the damn song. Yeah, and then Jerry's like, "Oh, we haven't played in a long time, man. We got to get it back together here." I'm just curious, was it that bad, or did we only see a few cuts on the MTV Unplugged?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing, you watch it on video or the album's like an hour 10. Dude, we were there 3 hours. They fucked up Sludge Factory 6 times. And so that and Frogs, which I like, but those two songs, they kept fucking up and fucking up. But you're at a TV taping. So that was, I will say, that was cool because I'm like, oh, this is bonus shit. We get to just keep watching them do this until they get it right or as close as they can. But that was a 3-hour-long show because of how many things that they fucked up.
The best song they did on that album, in my opinion, is Got Me Wrong. Yeah, they both just kind of clicked. Lane woke up, I think.
Yeah.
And then The Killer Is Me at the end. I kind of like that as a bonus track overall. But yeah, dude, I'll never forget that album because I grew up on the Nirvana stuff. I loved it. So I still think the Unplugged Alice in Chains is better. It's my own opinion, but I think it's because you see how great Jerry Cantrell is. And I think when everyone thinks of Alice in Chains, they only think of Lane Staley. Yeah. And that's not true. And what Jerry's doing now, I don't really listen to the new shit anymore. But I've met William Duvall. He's, the new singer now. Yep. But it's Jerry Cantrell's band. Lane Staley fucking held it back. And that's my opinion. I love Alice in Chains, but that's how I feel about them.
Did you like any of the album, the solo stuff he had, late 90s, early 2000s?
Boggy Depot, Cut You In was great. And there's some other shit on that's really good. And then his Degradation Trip, dude, he's actually dude from the Beatles, Harrison. That's what he did it after. And if you listen to that from
really?
Dude, Degradation Trip, you got a chance when you're bored. It's a double disc CD. And a lot of the shit is about Lane. He's fucking pissed at Lane.
Yeah.
And it's a lot there's a song called Locked On where he's just ripping Lane for being this drug addict, heroin fucking rock star. Huh. And the Degradation Trip's you want to get deep and dark and go back to the fucking 90s. That, yeah. Jerry Cantrell. And I kind of stopped after that.
Here, I'll show you real quick because I see you got some of your memorabilia stuff in the background. So I actually, this was the one by the foot of, this is the set list, and this was by the stool of Cantrell, and my buddy grabbed it and gave it to me.
Wow.
Believe it or not. And there's the ticket, and that
was holy shit
fan club back in the day.
Yeah, but dude, not many people can say they were there.
Right. Yeah.
And you have the number 4, is that number 4? Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah. So good story here too. So that's a young me with
Scott Weiland
and the other DeLeo brother,
Dean or whatever.
So this thing is signed "No Chipping," Scott Weiland. For years, I didn't know what the fuck that meant until one of my friends became a junkie. And no chipping. Chipping is apparently it's a saying for heroin users, and you just prick yourself enough to get a little off rather than getting really fucked up. And I didn't know what it meant for years. And then my buddy who was having issues at the time, so he laughed and he's like, haha, fucking chipping. I'm like, you know what that means? He's like, yeah, it's just doing a little bit, just enough to feel it.
Well, we've learned something. But you were into music though, and it's funny you bring this up. So that's how this podcast started. I started it one day because I wanted to talk about the loss of Kurt Cobain, and then Lane Staley 8 years later, and then I just went on some fucking rant, and then it became all right. Let's get more people on. But like I think about music, and you kind of brought it up. Like 90s was alternative. Mid 90s there was more hip hop or whatever, but that's when Bush came along. And like, Smashing Pumpkins were like really hot in STP for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, like the 98, 99, 2000s, like I know Spice Girls came out and like, Biggie was still going strong or whatever. But like what happened to music? Like Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Korn, as you mentioned, and then like it went to like Chevelle and like all these shitty butt rock bands as you talk about, the Nickelbacks, the Puddle of Muds of the world. I liked Creed. I don't care what anybody says. I liked them. I thought they were very good before the old shit, the newer shit that came out. And then all of a sudden, like boy bands were big, and then fucking emo. Like I caught myself. My best friend was in an emo band, so I started like I met like Brand New and all these other bullshit bands. But like, what the fuck happened to music, Jim? What is it because? Is it because of the radio and mainstream? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think so. One of the points where I was really, and I think I was only part-time there at the time, where I was like happy I worked at FNX was a little post butt rock. That, and I like Limp Bizkit. And that first album's great. The second one I think is still fun. Korn's good. Like there's bands from that era I like, but I just think that's some of that stuff just sounds, it's dated. Like I wouldn't really listen to it all that much now, but it was good for what it was at the time. But where alternative music went for a little minute in the early 2000s, and it didn't really get mainstream play, was bands like The Strokes, Franz Ferdinand, Muse. Like those bands are great, but they never really caught on. So what did, and that was being played at bigger rock stations or even at BCN, were, like you said, like Creed and Shinedown, and some of that stuff's all right. I like Shinedown, but it just, I don't know. It just didn't have the punch or the effect as some of those bands did. It just, I hate being like that. Like rock is dead, but like I don't know what the fuck happened to it, man.
Well, with Shinedown, everyone raved about a song that Lynyrd Skynyrd wrote. You know what I mean? It's like, and then I'm staring down the barrel of a 45. Like what? And dude, like I did like System of a Down and like some of these other bands that would come out, but like it was bad. And I think that's why I got into sports radio, is because this shit sucked. The shit they put on the radio sucked.
Yeah, and that's where, and I mentioned, like, I was the sports guy in different permutations of morning shows, and having grown up around here, like, I always loved the teams, was passionate about it, and I'm old enough where I'm pessimistic about all that shit, even though it's been 20 years of ridiculous success. But I saw the writing on the wall. Like, after I got blown out at FNX, I was like, I'm good with music radio again. Like, this industry's dying. I got to figure something the fuck else out. Like, I can't do this. Like, and plus they don't let you talk anyway, and I don't really like the music. Like the music started to really suck. So
it does still suck. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Even when, like, I'll still listen to occasionally like Alt Nation on Sirius, and I'm like, I don't know, 9 out of 10 songs. I'm like, this all fucking blows. Like, there's nothing here for me. So I don't know what happened to it. I really don't.
All right, I just thought that was a good little music discussion there with you. The Jordan documentary's out. What do you think about the playlist that they've had during the Jordan documentary?
That's been the most impressive thing to me. I don't know how they got all the rights and how, where they got all that money. Maybe Jordan's paying out of pocket, but I think the music's been perfect. Even some of the rock stuff, like they put in one of these last episodes.
I heard Down with the King. I heard.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
What's that? Let the man go through upside, let the man, like they're just throwing in like really good shit. And I know people have made playlists on Apple Music and Spotify. It's, if you haven't started following it and you've liked the music, it's great. But I will say, I said this on Fogger and Maz yesterday, I've liked it as a whole. These last 2 episodes, it got gratuitous, and it feels like it's just such a puff piece for Jordan, and I was bored by them. I was like, all right, like let's fucking wrap this up. It didn't need 10 episodes.
Yeah, I'll finish it off, but yeah, I think we're good now. And if there wasn't a pandemic, I don't know how much attention it would get. So speaking of that, you've probably been to so many concert venues because you've had to go. I'll just share mine. For me, still the Avalon to this day, the old Avalon. I saw Chris Cornell front row before Audioslave, and he was by himself, and he did a Billie Jean's "Not My Lover" cover. And
I was at that show.
You were, dude. That show fucking blew me away, and I was in the front row, dude.
Yeah.
But like, that's the best concert venue, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. No disrespect to the House of Blues, because people will still try to. I think if you're young and you're like, oh no, it's or you went to Avalon once, you're like, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. Avalon had the best sound system of any place I've ever been in my entire life. The sight lines were perfect. But it was the best. Avalon was the best music venue in the city, hands down. Whether it was for a show, you get fucked up, you go to see a DJ there, like that place. I miss it terribly. House of Blues doesn't come close. It's good, but it's not what Avalon was.
Yeah. In Mansfield on a weird summer night, once in a while, the place sucks. The traffic sucks. The key to Mansfield is you got to pay the extra $40 to get out of that parking lot. But I one night did see Tom Petty outside there. And it was maybe it had to been the weed and the booze. I don't know. But it was fucking awesome. But again, it's who you see too, right? Like, dude, I one time saw Third Eye Blind in a Goo Goo Dolls. I got forced to a Goo Goo Dolls concert. And I thought Third Eye Blind blew me away. I was like, but again, it had to be the weed and the booze. But there's bands that like, dude, I saw Sum 41 once. I don't even like them. And they were fucking good. But it was at Avalon. And I think that's why it made the whole experience much better.
Yeah, and I've since my now wife, we started seeing each other. Like so Tom Petty dies, Prince dies, David Bowie dies. Like you had all those like bang, bang, bang deaths of these big monumental stars. And after that, I kind of made this conscious decision with the both of us. I was like, we should see everything, because I don't want to be 10 years from now, I wish I saw fill in the blank. We could be better about it, but for a while there, we were like seeing whatever. And like you said, sometimes it's stuff you might not even be into, and you're surprised. We went and saw Dolly Parton, and it was fucking amazing. She was unbelievable. So I would implore people to do that once life gets back to normal, if and when, and you can go to shows. Like, see anything and everything.
I have to share this story because a friend just
what is this?
So we went to a Poison concert in a limo. Chris got a limo for us. We met some friends. We tailgated. And this dude's like, I got to take a shit. He didn't want to shit in a porta potty. So we like literally paid him. Dude, some dudes were being assholes. They left. And like, dude, I'll pay you to shit on that guy's Jeep. And he took a shit on a guy's Jeep.
Oh my God.
That concert was great though, Chris. I agree with that. It might have been in Mansfield. Yeah, I think we saw Cinderella and Poison. And it was a 95-degree day in the summer.
Oh my God.
And yeah. So I figured I'd at least shit that. But I mean, have you ever paid someone to shit on a car before?
No.
So yes, that memory just came in out of nowhere. Jim, I know you're a big food guy. Mm-hmm. So I figured I'd throw a couple of things at you. We can discuss a little food talk, because I'm a foodie, but like you're a real. I just like to eat it. You I think understand the ingredients of it. So food recommendation.
Not to cut you off, but you gave us one of those. You gave us an awesome recommendation for a steakhouse we went to in Miami,
right? Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's called Meat Market.
That's what it was. Yeah, that place was awesome.
So come to find out, dude, I was with the wife, and we didn't realize that they put gratuity already in it. So I was tipping people on top of gratuity. Well, I went to that place twice, and the second time we went there, they fucking hooked us up with a bunch of shit. So that's why, and I was like, why? I don't get it. And then one day they're like, yeah, dude, gratuity's included. You've been tipping us 25% on top of it.
Yeah, that's a weird, I found that's a kind of I hadn't been to Miami in like a decade. So, we were lucky enough to go for the Super Bowl this year. And that seemingly was everywhere in that city, which I never really seen. It was like, and I like to tip, and I'm more than, I think you got to take care of people in the service industry, especially now more than ever. But I thought that was kind of weird. Like, you've got to give people a heads up about that. Because I think, most often you don't look, you're like, additional 15, 20% or whatever. And all of a sudden you're like, why the fuck was this bill so high?
Yeah, Meat Market though. That's how it happened. Yeah. So that the next night they're like, yeah, dude, you've been. So I was there, and they were like, yeah, tell friends to come in or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I went there twice. Great steak, Argentinian steakhouse.
Yeah,
very good stuff. I guess we could call this Treat Yourself. Whatever happened to Treat Yourself?
I got lazy, and it's funny, right? I had put one together that I still have been sitting on that I was going to put out, and then everything got shut down. So there's no point in doing like hey, you should try these restaurant things. And it was a lot of work, believe it or not, even though I'm just filming stuff with my camera. But I don't know, I wanted to write a script to it, is how I had done the first 3 episodes. It was just by the time I was ready to put that fourth one out, the fucking pandemic hit, and I was like, we'll see what happens.
You could shelve it. You bring it back someday. All right, your favorite burger joint, and I guess I'll say the city or worldwide, whatever.
Favorite burger joint. I'm gonna go with Autobahn. Do you know that place over by Fenway? It's used to be across. Well, it used to be Ontane, I think is what used to be.
Yeah, yep.
Across the street. It's a little spot. Yeah, their burger's perfect. They give you, the only thing I don't like about it is they don't give you real fries. It's potato wedges, but I've never had a bad burger there. It's just pretty basic. I don't like a lot of stuff on my burger, but that's probably my go-to.
I'm out on lettuce. Give me bacon or whatever, but no lettuce, no tomatoes, no onions, none of that bullshit. Out.
Yeah.
Out on all that stuff. My favorite burger joint is RFO Sullivan's, if you've ever been there.
Oh, they're jacked. Yeah. They're like.
And they give you the wedges too, but yeah, that's my favorite. How about barbecue joint?
BT Smokehouse in Sturbridge.
Met the owner. Drives a big ass truck. Oh yeah. That's a legit like barbecue joint. And he does it right up there, man.
And another one I know you're a fan of too, the Rusty Can in Byfield.
Oh, yes.
Fucking ridiculous. And that guy's a lunatic. So do you know he lives in Maine and drives every day to Byfield and like starts his smoke at like 3 a.m. every day. They're fucking nut, but their food's great.
Food's great, and then you can always go there or come back from the like Plum Island to Newburyport, and you know if you're making that North Shore trip, you could do that as well. I like the place in what's the place? The Smokehouse. They get the best. The burnt ends.
Yeah, burnt ends good. Yeah.
Still haven't found one that's better in there. How about seafood? You got any seafood joints?
Yeah, let's see seafood. What's it depends on what you want. Like, do you want fresh like oysters and stuff like that? Because like
I'm a fried clams guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love fried clams too. I'm a basic bitch with fried clams, man. I like Kelly's. I like I know Woodman's is good, and you go to all those places and like Cape Ann and all whatever. Yeah. Kelly's at the beach, the main Kelly's in Revere. Get that fried clam plate there. It's enough to feed 2 people. Yeah. I've loved it since I was a kid. My dad and my mom used to take me there. Like that, Kelly's clams. I'm not big on their roast beef or much else that they have there. The cheeseburger's underrated. Good clam chowder, but that fried clam plate at Kelly's is.
There's a clam box that's in on Quincy. What beach is there? Walston Beach. Very good. But if you ever get a chance, Starboard Galley in Newburyport. It's a fucking hidden gem.
Starboard. I'm gonna make a note of that.
It's not a night. You can sit outside and be on the water. You know, it's no frills. Like you'll hear about Michael's Harborside and all these other places. Starboard Galley, no frills, but it's fucking good and it's good money. People are throwing out Wonder Burger in Northern Vermont. I've never been there.
Bunch of hippies.
Yeah, but I hear everything in Vermont is very good. Any Mexican recommendations?
Yeah, a few. So I just got wife and I for a week ago today for Cinco. We did Naco Taco, and that was only because the dude hit me up on Twitter and was like, because I was looking for a place. I'm like, where should I go? So they're right on Mass Ave, and they started as a food truck, and now they have a brick and mortar sit down, or did. But you can still get takeout there. They're awesome, and the fucking food was great. Even right downtown Melrose here, we have Mexico Lindo.
Mexican Lindo's great.
Yeah.
Love that spot.
Yeah, it's funny. So I've found in like the last 10 years, 5-10 years, like barbecue and Mexicans really stepped up around here because I always thought it kind of sucked in New England as a whole. Like no one really knew how to do it, but both of those cuisines you can find really good places.
Tanache in Medford Square.
That place is good too.
If you can get in.
Yeah.
And Howling Wolf in downtown Salem. Unbelievable. And those who live a little further out, Casablanca. There's one in like North Andover or Lawrence or somewhere in that area. Oh, very good. Very good. And there's all sorts of shit in Jamaica Plain if you really want to go out that way.
Okay.
The Purple Cactus. Very, very good. All right, Jim. This is the question of the day here. Best roast beef. Now, let me just tell you, I grew up in Hyde Park. There's no such thing as roast beef restaurants out there. Like, what's a roast beef sandwich? We don't have one out there.
Really?
I had to cross the Tobin Bridge one day or go past the Zachem to find out what these roast beef sandwiches were. So, in your opinion, what's the best roast beef?
Billy's roast beef on the border of Wakefield and Melrose. I will die on that hill forever. Everyone has their famous roast beef or their favorite Buzzies, wherever. But for me, it's Billy's. I hate that they're closed right now. I understand it. Like some people just don't want to do like the takeout and stuff like that. But if they were, I would be going at least once a week. It's also maybe the cleanest restaurant you'll ever go into. And I know that for a fact. I used to play cards with the health inspector around here, and he said you could eat off the floor of that place. Their fried food's iffy, but straight roast beef, 3-way, sauce, cheese, mayo, the fucking best.
Mine's Nick's in Beverly, but
Nick's is great too.
It's just sometimes tough to get in there, and
yeah,
parking's not great. I used to work at the radio station across the street, so like I went there way too many times. Thoughts on horseradish on beef, by the way? In or out on that one?
Sure. So I used to get everything on it, so it's fine. But now I just want sauce, cheese, mayo, and also an extra cup of the James River sauce to dip.
Yeah. So you're a 3-way guy.
Yeah.
You're in on the 3-way. Same here. All right, and finally, pizza. Best pizza joint in your opinion?
Umberto's, Galleria Umberto, North End, square style Sicilian, just basic, crispy. It's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I think that's the best pizza in the city. And for like a straight basic slice, Regina, any of the, I don't think you can go wrong there. And a lot of people want to shit on like the Greek style pizza. I kind of actually think it's a little underrated, just as like a New England Boston thing. But overall, Umberto's number one.
Yeah. I went the other day. I went to a nice place, and it's called Durham and Lynn. It was very nice, very good, huge. But Leone's,
that's one that you got with the pepperoni on it.
Yeah, they had the real, like, the shit was good. It was definitely made with love. But Leone's, in Somerville, Broadway, cash only.
Yep.
But yeah, you got to go for the ride. It's very, very, very good.
Also,
go ahead.
Super clean place. And have you ever got their calzones?
No, but I will.
They're ridiculous. Their steak and cheese calzone is fucking ridiculous.
Oh man, I'm fucking hungry right now. All right, so we got a couple of minutes here, Jim. Just quickly, a few things. I know you said is your old man live in Conway now? Is there? Or I know you go out to Conway. Like I love Zeb, North Conway. So like I love Zeb's. I go up there all the time. I'm like a Zeb's fan. I love the fucking LVO's pizza. The Muddy Moose sucks. I'm not a fan of the Muddy Moose. But is there like a spot up there that you like in particular?
Delaney's. So if you go past the was it the White Mountain Hotel there on the left, the White Mountain Hotel, which is famous up there. About a few more minutes on the left, Delaney's Hole in the Wall. It's sports bar, and the guy that owns it is dead cool. He's been up there a million years. He's got tons of memorabilia and him with athletes and stuff all over the walls. Great service, good drinks, icy cold Coors Lights, always ready to go. It's a good bar. They have sushi, which is really good there, but some of the best wings I think you'll find. Like they have these honey hot wings that are fucking giant. They don't split them, so it's like the big wing. Their burgers are great. I've never had a bad meal there. That place is great. The only thing, they just need to use real fucking ketchup. They put like half-ass bullshit like Royal ketchup out there. Put Heinz out there. But other than that,
you're right about that. There's got to be something about like a good ketchup, a good blue cheese.
Yeah,
like you can't give me the shit blue cheese either. Like I'm out on that. And like sometimes I'm weird on barbecue sauce. So I don't know what it is. Sometimes it's like I get weird barbecue sauce. I just can't do it.
Yeah, and it's what? Save a few bucks at the bottom. Like just put out the real shit. That's what people want.
All right, Jim. So a couple more that can you tell us about the Drive for Five bus? We know you did that a couple of years ago. Like,
yeah.
Do you look back at that as like that was cool, or like was it a fucking pain in the ass?
No, I'm glad that I got to do it. I will say, going into it, so when I worked on the Madden thing in 2003, same thing. I had to live on a bus, but that was for months, plural. This was a matter of 2 weeks. So there was a big difference of being on a bus and having to sleep in those conditions at age 25 or whatever I was at the time, and 39, 40. Yeah, it got old quick. It was fun. I'm glad we got to do it. I'm glad I got to go to that Super Bowl. But, by the end of it, I think we were all ready to kill each other. It's close quarters. It's a lot of people. The sleeping arrangements aren't great, even though you have your own bunk. You're like shaking all over the place. I'm 6'4". I barely fit in the fucking thing. I wouldn't do it again. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah. So there's famous stories about you, Felger, Maz. You guys all go out like a night for the Super Bowl or Super Bowl week, and there might be a little partake of extracurricular activities. Like Like, is this a real? Can you walk us through this? Like,
yeah. So
is everybody just basically taking a hit of weed, like, and then they fucking get lost? Like, what happens here?
I've brought edibles with me because you can, no one's really gonna bust your balls looking through your bag or anything like that. So I've brought edibles that I get at a dispensary, usually some wax or whatever. I'll bring a vape, and that's just all it is. Like those guys' tolerance isn't what I think you or I's would be. So, and I might be fuzzy on whether or not I'm giving him a 5 milligram or a 50 milligram. Who's to say?
Yeah.
So this time around in Miami, like I had him on the ropes. I had him on the fucking ropes, man. Like last year was a complete the one in Atlanta was a complete disaster. Like it's the best $50 I ever had to spend in my life for the cleanup for some poor bastard's Uber that Mike puked all over. I buried him. It was fucking great. But this time around, I had him, and I gave him that edible. We went to the Celtics Heat game, and he just like disappeared. Like I can't eat edibles. Like I'll give them, I'll buy them, I'll make them for anyone. But personally, I can't eat them. I may as well eat acid. I like completely lose my mind.
Well, you know what it is when you eat that stuff, it goes through your liver.
Yeah,
which like shoots. Like I've done mushrooms, I've done other stuff, so I don't know what's coming out if I eat the shit. When I smoke the shit, fine.
So you have the same thing. Like you can't eat it.
I get like a mushroom type like trip.
Oh, it's brutal, and it's not fun. Like I actually hate it. Like I hate edibles. It's terrible.
Yep.
But man, like I do like seeing what they do to other people, and so I gave him that. We went in that game, and he just like disappeared, and I was like, oh, he's like lost it. He's fucking done. Then he found us, and him and I sat together and watched the game for a little while. Well, the other guys were like off in some like stupid area, and the thing that he bounced, we ate late. Like if we kept going and we kept going to bars, I would have got him again. But we went out for like a big steak dinner at like 11 o'clock at night, and you know how like you get food in you and you're like back to life, and it's like God,
That's I still it's like sounds legendary. The legend of the Super Bowl week with Elger Maz and Big Jim. Speaking of that, I used to smoke a ton of weed. I kind of chilled a little bit only because I need to find a job. So if anybody wants to hire me, I have clean pee. But like, dude, so when I was growing up, man, there was all sorts of shit. Like I used to smoke the weed with this sticks, stems, seeds.
Yeah.
And again, I grew up in the hood. So like, I don't know where I was getting it from. It wasn't like some college kid with kind bud, and it wasn't that. So I do that. And all my buddies were like, dude, like you got to see this shit we get up at school, man. Like try it out. I would smoke it and it wouldn't like really do anything to me. Like the kind bud and all that shit wouldn't do anything. So one day my buddy's like, dude, I got this shit. We call it White Widow. And it was like in this glass case. And I'm like, all right, like let's do it. I fucked up. I fucked up. So like that's how I like got introduced to like good weed. All right. But like, were you used to that old seed stem stuff?
Yeah.
Or were you like out on that and went right for the good shit?
No, we used to, I mean, especially because I'm a few years older than you, like it was nothing but fucking dirt for years. And my friend Adam Curtis, who's now like the richest guy I know because he was so ahead of it, dude. Like in the 90s, like in high school, he'd be like, this shit's going to be legal one day. This is how I'm going to make my nut. And especially then we're like, please, like no shot. He has since opened a dispensary. He's a multimillionaire. Like it's out in Denver. He was like on the ground floor in 2009, but he used to deal and we'd bust his balls. He's like one of our friends, like Adam, like don't sell us this shit. Again, his last name was Curtis. We would refer to as the Curtis Brown. All it was, it was $100 for a fucking headache, dude. Terrible.
Yep.
Sticks, seeds, awful. Yeah, and then I remember it was like 98, 99. Someone I knew got, it was like, oh, you got to try this hydro shit.
Yeah.
And it was like, what the fuck? Like, and ever since then, you see what people can get or grow and all the technology behind it. Like, it's on a whole different level. I smoked up my dad. Now, like, my dad doesn't have great health, but this is going back like 10 years ago. My dad openly smoked for years. But guys that age, like, they weren't used to that shit. And we smoked him up. Dude, he fell. Like, he fucking fell in the bathroom. It, like, killed him. It nearly fucking gave him a heart attack. Like,
I have no clue why, but the old folk still love the old weed. They can't, like, cross over. Like, I'm telling you, like, you look at these red hairs, man. They're like, nah, just give me the old steeds instead. But I think it was Snoop Dogg, and I got to give him props. When he was like, no steeds, no stems, no sticks, some of that real sticky icky, that's when I was like, I can't get a headache anymore.
Yeah.
Now I just get high and I get the munchies and I go to sleep. You know what I mean? That's pretty much it for me. But it's weird. Like it's funny. Like I've smoked weed up until like the last couple of months. But like whatever. I'm glad it's legal now. I'm glad everybody can do it because back in the day it was like, oh, you're a pothead, or you're a stoner, or you can get arrested for it. And like now it's like fucking Jesus, so stupid.
Oh yeah.
But props to your boy for making out big on that.
Oh, it's crazy, dude. I'm proud of him. He was always wacky and like he had balls. Like he had balls from the get-go. He always knew he was going to end up doing that kind of thing, and it's fucking worked out. But it's crazy to me just how, and I'm glad that how acceptable it is now too. Because it's the same thing. Like, boy, like if you got labeled like a pothead, like 20 years ago, your life was pretty much over.
All right, a couple more things here. Richard Seymour is a Hall of Famer. You made a good comparison that people hate Bill Parcells just like they hate Ray Allen. I thought it was like a great comparison. So Seymour gets in this year, but next year it'll be Parcells, Vrabel, and Welker. It's going to be Welker, right? I mean, it's going to be another year of no Parcells.
Yeah. And I don't really put it on the team. So I mean, look at the Team Hall of Fame, so they're going to have their say. But at least I feel like that they've softened that they actually put his name and Vrabel's on that list. But I don't know. Fans are petty. You got guys my age and older. I know, what Jerry Thornton of Barstool's written. Like he shouldn't have been making those phone calls the week of the Super Bowl. And yeah, it was ugly how that thing ended. But again, this team's in St. Louis without Bill Parcells. And at the very least, acknowledge the fact that without Parcells, the Krafts don't get to sniff the ass of Belichick and say, ooh, you know what? We see something with this guy. He already had a chance. He blew it. But maybe this should be the guy post-Pete. Like, without Parcells, that doesn't happen. They don't get to be around Belichick. So I just think it's a younger person thing. Like, well, not completely, because, again, Thornton's older. But I don't know, like, get the fuck over it. Really, it's the Ray Allen thing. Like, get the fuck over it. Like, appreciate what he was able to do for their respective team, Allen for the Celtics and Parcells for the Patriots, and honor him, because it's ridiculous that he's not in there.
Jim, this has been a discussion on this podcast for a while now. I rewatched The Sopranos during this, and I guess I want to get your opinion on how did The Sopranos end, in your opinion?
Not great. There was a stretch there I tried to convince myself. I don't know if you read all these like multiple articles and theories, and it's like, no, it's supposed to be you, the viewer, and they kill you, the viewer, and no, they kill Tony, and it's like, just fucking give it to us the right way. Like, don't make me think. Like, at the risk of sounding like a fucking hammerhead, like, it's a TV show. Like, I don't want to think that hard about it. Like, just end it the fucking right way. I don't need art. So I wasn't happy with the ending, and I wasn't happy with those last few seasons. The whole thing with Vito, I thought, was prolonged and too much. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's still one of the greatest shows of all time. Those first 3 seasons are perfect. But I thought it really went off the rails the last couple of seasons, and I hated the ending.
I'm still pissed. Still pissed. Like, dude, I loved Game of Thrones, but once it happened, I haven't even talked about Game of Thrones since. I don't even know if you've heard, like, it was the worst ending, but like I bet no one has watched it during quarantine. Like, I bet you nobody is even like, nah, I'm not going back, because dude, that really was one of the greatest shows.
Yeah, my girl loved it, but she hated that last season and felt like it was a slog, and she hasn't had any interest. We've gone back. I'm one of these Wire stands. I've watched it, I think, 6 times through in its entirety. We're going to do it again. Like, I just think it's timeless. It's perfect. I love her, and I like Succession. We just recently rewatched that. But like Sopranos, man, like I found, like, I'll watch clips or longer clips on YouTube, but to go back and rewatch it, like, I have no interest. And she's felt the same way about Game of Thrones. Like, nah. Like,
all right, that goes into the how we wrap this thing up. We call it quarantine.
All right,
things that you've done during quarantine. So, what shows have you been watching? Any other new shows that you've been watching?
Her and I, we love 90 Day Fiance.
Oh, dude, I love that shit.
Did you believe what the fuck happened with that David and Lana thing?
I don't know what the deal with the Lana is. Like, but I've watched like a million of, like, there was one that went back to his country, but like she couldn't stay there, and the shower was gross, and like, so I haven't like watched it every single week. Okay. But like I'm like in though. I know what's going on, and it's all fucked up.
I don't want to ruin this, but there's one guy who's just like a loser's loser, and he's gone to Ukraine like 5 separate times. Yep. He's completely getting scammed. But then the fucking girl shows up, dude. I yelled at the TV. I was like, no, this is bullshit. Like, it's so staged and like, oh, it just made me so mad. So yeah, 90 Day Fiance, Dark Side of the Ring, which I know you're a fan of.
Yeah.
What else? Like I said, we recently rewatched Succession.
Let me give you one. Insecure, if you especially with the wife.
My dad loves that show.
Dude, I fucking love it. I don't know. It's like an HBO thing. Anything they put together. And Issa Rae, she's outstanding.
Yeah.
So
my dad said we were like, really?
Yeah, the fact that your dad's watching is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. And then you got to watch Dave. It's about Little Dicky, the rapper.
I keep seeing that's the FX show, right?
Yeah, FXX, I think, or it's on Hulu or something. But dude, that show's like 10 episodes of 30 minutes of just like a Jewish guy who's a rapper, and it's so fucking funny. I walked into it. It's really good. It's really kind of the only new thing I've watched. But for 30 minutes a show, it's really funny and worth it.
I need something light, so I'll check that out. Yeah.
And it's funny, like he raps, like you know who the Little Dicky is. Yeah. And like everything's about like him and his girl, and yeah, it gets a little. See, people love Dave.
Okay.
The show just keeps getting better and better. I'm trying to think of what else I've been watching. There's other stuff out there, like if you want to watch like the Lifetime type movie, Dirty John, Big Little Lies.
About that too, isn't there some?
Yeah, like Big Little Lies is on HBO if you want to watch like that stuff. Dead to Me is like with Christina Applegate if you want to watch that. But yeah, I've been watching too much TV, man. It's like starting to become the end of the world to me. What has been your go-to snack here during quarantine?
Oh Jesus, what hasn't? I'm just getting fatter by the day. I'll tell you what. You know what's been problematic is crackers and pub cheese. It's just like Triscuits and the port wine pub cheese.
Ritz right now, dude.
Yeah, and you add that with a few beers, and then all of a sudden I look down, I'm like, oh, I ate the whole box. So yeah, it's crackers and pub cheese has been a problem.
Have you ever seen Unorthodox? Somebody is asking.
No.
Mad Men.
Another one starts great, ended shitty. I actually tapped out before the 5th season even ended because I thought it became predictable, and I hated everybody, and I hated all the characters. And once I start hating all the characters, you've lost me. I'm done with your show.
All right, couple more here. Best frozen food.
I'm not a frozen food guy all that much. I will tell you. So in terms of like bad habits during quarantine, I will say anytime I open up my freezer, I keep a bottle of or bottles. I've gone through them of Bailey's in the freezer. It's a nice little nightcap. It's refreshing. It's almost like boozy ice cream in a bottle.
Yeah. I've been putting my Kowloon mix in there too. It's
oh nice.
Yeah, a little frosty Mai Tai. Definitely goes a long way. And finally, what's the most obscure purchase you've had during quarantine? I'll just give you mine. I did Instacart, and everything went fine, but they gave me an extra bag. I'm not a salad guy. I'm not a lettuce guy. They gave me a fucking head of lettuce, a box of baby spinach, in fucking like 6 avocados extra.
Like pre-bagged spinach?
Yes. They like the ones in the boxes, like the fucking baby spinach, like the whatever.
Yeah.
But is that like some sick joke? Like I don't fucking love that. I don't like any of that shit. So everything was successful, but I got a bag of fucking like shit that I don't need. And like I don't use avocado. I don't eat avocado. Like what the fuck? That's my story. You could turn them into guac. Do you or your wife like guacamole? She likes the guac. Guac's a fun. Like I one time watched a play. I was at Rosa Mexicana once, and they just did it in front of me once, and I was like, the squishing bothered the shit out of me, and I've been so weird about it since. It is an odd sound. Yeah, wow, shit. Like maybe if you have a garden or if you have bunnies in your neighborhood, just throw it over. Yeah. But any obscure purchases for you? Yeah. So when Brady went to the Bucks, I immediately went to eBay to see what I could find in terms of like Bucks gear, and there was a throwback Doug Williams jersey with a 12 on it. Wow. That I got and it was a Mitchell and Ness. I mean, would have been $200 used. It was a little beat up, but I got it for like $40. So, yeah, that's probably been the most obscure thing that I've purchased. All right, he's Big Jim Murray. You can hear him on the radio in about 40 minutes or so. Last thing, Cameo, man. Everyone's on Cameo. How's that? Tell everyone how they can reach out to you, and how'd the Cameo thing get started?
So, and believe me, I know that it's douchey, but it's extra scratch and fuck it. Like, well, I'm not going to say no to it because, like, I'm not doing any voiceover work or anything like that right now. So I'm not going to say no to extra money. But Maz, so there's this company called Blue Sky Entertainment, and they have, like, you know, bigger names. They got Zoe, they got ex-Red Sox players, Jerry Remy, people like that. And so they've helped them get on there. And then they reached out to Maz, and then Maz out of the blue was like, hey, you should do this. And I was like, sure, like, give them my name. Like, I didn't expect to hear back from them, but I did. And so that was a few weeks ago, $15. I'm not going to raise the price because it's ridiculous that people even want me to do it in the first place, but just go to my Twitter page. It's pinned at the top. You want me to do any kind of dumb voices for you? If I can dance like a monkey, I'll do it. So, yeah, you know, as it is, like $15, I feel like is a little high. I'm not going to raise it beyond that. If people want to hire me for it, I'll be happy to do whatever the hell. As long as it's not terrible or racist or anything like that.
All right, he's Big Jim Murray, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Gasper moving up in the world as well on Channel 5. Is he dressing a little better now?
I don't know if you can dress any better than that guy. Like, even coming in on Saturdays where I look like this, like a fucking homeless person, he's just like dressed in the nines. It's like, Jesus, man. Like, do you ever give it a rest? And even when he is wearing sweats, they're like $400 sweatpants.
Nice. Well, that'll be Saturday morning, 10 o'clock on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Jim, appreciate the time, man. I know you're going to be on the clock soon. So,
yeah.
Do you guys get anything coming up today on Felger Maz?
I think it's going to be some Brady bashing based on an article that Maz wrote at 98.5thesportshub.com, and a bit more on the bitching going back and forth between the MLBPA and the owners, which.
Stupid.
I mean, just fucking figure it out. People need something. And for people, there's so many people out of work, like for the players, which I'm normally on the side of players over ownership and worker against the employer. But, like, give me a fucking break. Like, just take the deal and get the fuck out there.
Exactly, man. All right. He's Big Jim Murray, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Jim, appreciate your time, man. It was a great job. And I'll probably see you at some point when they let us back in the building.
All right, Joe. Take care. Thanks, man.
You got it, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you. He is Big Jim Murray from 98.5 The Sports Hub. That was fun. It was good to catch up with Big Jim and go over stuff. He'll be on 98.5 The Sports Hub coming up at 2 p.m. today. Tomorrow, we'll have Julian Edlow from DraftKings. We'll have some fun with him, kind of go over everything that's happening in the sports world. There's UFC fights tomorrow night as well, and we'll probably take a look at some betting odds when it comes to the NFL and everything like that. And wrestling was very good last night. So I might do that later in the week as well. But appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Again, you can find the show just sitting here on Spotify, YouTube, and on iTunes. Appreciate everyone with the downloads. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to continue this through this week and then next week. And I mean, I got to go back to work at some point, right? Like, are jobs hiring? Are there people out there that are actually getting interviews for jobs? Like, how do we get a job? Like, I see the jobs out there and you apply, but it's like, are you just competing against everybody else? It's fucking nuts. Anyways, looking for a job if anybody wants to hire me. I'm still doing, radio, but if you want to hire me, I can do something when I'm not at radio. All right, whatever. All right, got to get out of here. That's it for me today. Thanks to Big Jim Murray. Fun job. I love working with Jim. He's a good dude. I'm not going on Cameo. Come on. Who wants to hear me on Cameo? $10 though? If I did like a couple, put some extra scratch in the old pocket, maybe we could. All right, I got to get out of here. I'm Joe Murray. Again, you can check us out on Spotify, YouTube, and on iTunes. Back tomorrow with Julian Edlow. I'm Joe Murray, just sitting here. We'll talk to you tomorrow.